Special treat for you guys. We've got Kaleb, KQuick Rollins here. Incredible producer, mix engineer, songwriter too.
Yeah.
Does a lot of work with Jon Batiste. And I think we've worked with Lady Gaga, Lana Del Rey, J. Cole. And today we're working on a track with
Bas.
So yeah.
Cool. Today we're gonna go through this song called Everyday People. So it's a song by Bas, who's one of J. Cole's artists, featuring this band from London called The Hicks. So they did a joint album together that I was fortunate enough to record and co-produce and mix the project. And so this is one of the singles from the project. We'll kind of go through and break down the philosophy behind the mix, some of the choices made. Since I was involved from the beginning of the project, some of those choices were made in the recording process as well, in the production process, but then it informs, how I want to treat it afterwards. So we can talk through that and just kind of get a sense of, how this song was made. So I'll actually play the mix, and then as we go through things, we can compare it to the rough.
Silence is off-putting, killing me softly. And damn if they all looking, fuck if they all see this. I just wanna talk to you, yeah. There's nothing new here. I'm stuck to you, yeah. No substitute, yeah. Never lied and I be running through the bar, never hiding, where to find me, I know it's a sign they running down your thighs and I be right behind it.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding, maybe even just for a while, and maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning, soak to you while I'm still adoring. And I wanna read your mind. So close you could. I wanna get so close to you, I couldn't read your mind. Oh, seeing you move when you're near me, I'm blinded. The way you were made shakes me. Just who you are takes me. I feel like a dude, yeah. I'm creeping up on you, yeah. I'm stuck to you, yeah. No substitutes, hey. I know, I believe it, and you see me 'cause I'm thinking over what I keep. But you know where to take me. I know there's no safety in it, but I'm open to it. Right behind, let's do it.
Yeah. Met her at the brunch, and shorty had a fatty I would've ate for lunch. That's silly, but that's how I rate the bunch. Slide a plates of lunch, I got my seat at the table. Sliding closer to you like I cannot break the bonds. I caught a car, we skate, girl, why it takes so long to hold you? How it takes so long to hold you? Girl, why it takes so long?
In just a matter of ways, I'm willing to take upon love. In just a matter of ways, I'm willing to take upon it. I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding, maybe even just for a while, and maybe
That's the song. That's the mix. So yeah, so I'll kind of give a breakdown. The project in general, I took very different approaches to each of the songs. I don't have like a method per se of like, I do it this way every time. I guess the only thing that I do every time is I start with just building it with just volume. That's kind of my, the main process. Like I don't start just by throwing on plugins and solo the kick and carve out the kick and figure out that sound and then build from there. Mm-hmm. I just kind of like to get a feel first of what it is. And when I'm familiar with the song already, that process happens fairly quickly because we spent a lot of time in the studio at that point, getting those levels and getting the feel and getting the relationship between the sounds, to where it feels good. Now it's just about, okay, what in the mix can I do to bring it to the next level of, a finished product? What are the things that we were doing, but we didn't spend as much time on that we can push further and enhance and things like that. So for this song in particular, the main word for me was glue. Like that was which I don't treat that for every mix. Some mixes I want to hear a bit more separation between the sounds, but for this one, it really had a feel where, it feels like you're listening to the song at like a chill party, a get together with friends or something like that, or you're driving down the highway, listening to it in California or something like that. Like that was kind of the energy that went into creating the record. So I wanted to try and capture that in the mix. So I wanted to glue things together a bit more than I would normally do on another song that needs to be super punchy and super clear and detailed. So here, this is just the in-the-box version, but I took different groups of instruments, like all the drums and bass, some of the music elements, some of the lead vocals, background vocals, things like that. And I was summing them out through outboard gear. I have a Neve, I think it's called the 5057, the Orbit summing amp. So I was sending them in just to get a little bit more of that, gooiness, for lack of a better word. But I also created that in the box before I sent it out in these groups here. So sum 1 and 2 is what I put the main music elements through. So I'll play everything that's going through sum bus 1 and 2, just so you can kind of get a sense of the different sections. There, and then the saxophone later on. So anything that was a keyboard, a pad, that main sound is a sample, but it's like a keyboard sample. There's an organ that comes in, the saxophone, anything that feels kind of atmospheric, it swims around, I put in the same group. And on that bus, you see down here, I have some compression, just a Neve 33609, and it's doing a light bit of compression. So if I play it here, a lot of times it barely touches. So it's catching some of those, moments where the saxophone pokes out, but rather than just putting it on the saxophone channel, I wanted to start from some people describe it as top-down mixing, where you kind of start on a bus and then you go to the individual elements and tweak things, because I wanted that glue kind of a sound. After that compression, I had an EQ just doing a little bit of boost at 8K, a slight bit amount. I'll play and then I'll bypass it so you can hear the difference. It's very small, just 2 dB of a wide Q at 8K. Just gets a little bit darker when it's bypassed. It just opens up a bit, you know, and then listening to the song, a lot of these changes I'm making while everything is playing so that I can hear those adjustments. And then when I need to, I'm soloing a lot of times when I'm trying to fix something versus when I'm trying to do a creative move and a creative effect or broad strokes feel.
So these you also sum through the Neve, the hardware Neve?
Yeah.
Okay, in addition to the bus processing.
In addition to the bus processing.
Got it. And then kind of just with the approach of like creating the glue, you said it's like, okay, you want it to feel like you're driving the car, you're at a party or something like that. How do you kind of make the connection between that and like glue? How is that just like an association you kind of have already? Is there
for me, it's we're all in the same room together. We're all in the same room vibing together. And to that, when you're in a space, everything is interacting with the environment. Everything is interacting. You hear that conversation as well. It's not, you're not hearing everything in isolation.
More like a band.
Exactly.
So like a hyper real modern separation.
Yeah. Everything, like this sound comes in, it's like, okay, that was that sound. And it's very carved out and clear. A lot of the times you'll see when I go through the individual elements, there's not a ton of EQ moves that are happening. It's more of like a broad strokes kind of a thing because I didn't necessarily want to carve out everything specifically. There are some times where you need to do that if something is giving you problems. There's low end buildup, mid range buildup. You need to kind of address that.
Yeah.
But when the production arrangement is in a certain way, it leaves room to do more creative things like that because a lot of those decisions were made in the production process.
It already sounds good.
That's why you choose, exactly, that's why they choose a specific sound, or that's why it may have been EQ'd in whatever DAW we were producing in, you know, beforehand to fit together.
So you don't reset everything when you mix?
Never. I never do that.
Same session or new session?
It depends. It depends. This was the same session.
Got it.
This session has had a bunch of different iterations.
You're trying to take off your producer hat, put on your mixer hat, but same session, now you're just looking to like take it up a notch in terms of fidelity.
And a lot of times I'll even commit whatever was done in the recording session. I'll commit that so I don't even see a plugin.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'll just...
So you're kind of, so it's similar...
Trying to wipe my brain.
Because we often say about like starting a new session to make that commitment, but you're just doing that within the session itself, basically.
Yeah. Make sure there's some days in between where I haven't heard the song, you know, so where I can come at it with a fresh perspective. So a lot of what you see here on the individual tracks, there may have been a bunch of things that happened before that in the recording process, in the production process. But I don't want to see 10 different plugins from decisions that were made months ago. I just want fresh perspective.
So it's more of a kind of bounce in place as you go as opposed to start a whole new session.
Exactly. And then if I hear something that, I wish I could fix that, then I'll go back into the inactive tracks, you know, bring it back, maybe tweak that one plugin that may have been doing something I didn't quite like, and then going from there. Or not, and just trying to find a creative way around it. Because I kind of miss some of the days of, you know, where you couldn't fix something. You couldn't go back. Something was tracked to a tape machine or whatever, or through analog gear, and that was it. There's a beauty in a lot of that because it causes you to be a lot more creative. Knowing that you can just fix everything later on, it kind of, having too many options can be kind of a detriment to the creative process. So I like limiting it and just committing. And when we're recording, you'll hear the guitar tracks. We've recorded it through a Kemper with a bunch of settings and going through a compressor. And then when it came in, it's like, all right, we can't go back unless you want to re-record it and try to create the magic in that session. Like it's very hard to do. So that's how I treat a lot of mixing in general, but especially this project, because this project was made with a lot of collaboration and there was a ton of thought behind the choices, the recording choices and production choices. So I don't want to just, now let me just undo what was 2.5 years of creative input, you know, just to say that, I mixed it with my stamp.
So you kind of start with improving the good stuff.
Yes.
enhancing beauty, right? That philosophy of enhancing beauty first, fixing things that need to be fixed later, but enhancing beauty first.
Right, because it keeps me more creative as well and keeps me more excited about working on the track,
Yeah.
you know, versus starting from complete scratch. And then now I need to clean up a bunch of stuff and do all this surgical stuff and get the levels and do all of that. Okay, now I can mix. But it's already been 2 hours of quote unquote the boring stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I like starting from just, okay, let's just move some faders, do some massaging, try some weird things, try some things that weren't done in the session. That doesn't work. But
got a
moving
bit more
on,
time.
but making those choices intuitively and quickly rather than trying to get too deep into the weeds. There's always time as you mix to get deeper into the weeds. But I wanted to start, you know, from the top down.
And even if you were doing something that you did want more separation with, less of this kind of glue approach, you would still approach it from top down, faders up. Generally,
Yeah.
you're like you said, even if you wanted that separation, you wouldn't start with the kick on its own. You'd still start with
I mean, if the gain staging is already right, I may need to do a very quick, you know, kind of gain staging to make sure I have enough headroom. So the kick is usually in certain genres the loudest thing. So it might be helpful to just kind of, okay, got that up, all right. But quickly moving to getting everything, which a lot of time was done in the recording process as well.
Right, exactly. You're not, because you're not actually drawing a line in the sand like, now I'm going to mix and I'm bringing all my faders back down. It's just,
Right.
You put on your mix hat, the balance is already done, basically.
Right.
Balancing
It's just
it.
making sure that you have enough room overall. So it might even be selecting all the tracks and then just turning everything down to give yourself that.
Versus if you were sent something to mix that you hadn't produced.
And depending on the sound of the rough as well, some things where they didn't have the track out stems of the music. They were just recording to a bounce of the song. And then now I have the stems and it sounds completely different than the 2-track bounce they were recording to. Well, now I need to spend some time trying to get the stems to have that feel of the 2-track bounce that they're used to before I can start mixing, quote unquote. So it's different approaches depending on how a song comes, your level of involvement, when you came into the picture, you know, along the process that kind of dictate a different, not mentality, but a different workflow to how you get going
Yep.
and then get creative.
Got it. And you do a lot of immersive mixing as well.
Yeah.
So I've never really done that, but I imagine even more so, it's like you can't do anything until you've got every kind of your levels up, some placement.
Yeah.
You're not going to be like EQing a kick.
Right. For that, it's you know, it's a different hat you have to put on as well because one, it's a new-ish format, but new to the world, you know, format on a large scale, and there is a stereo mix already that exists that everybody loves and everybody's been listening to. And now you have to do that and you have to stay true to that with the immersive mix. And there's some limitations in that format as well, and some tricks that you can do to get it to sound more.
I imagine that's quite challenging.
Like
it's like even more of
it
an
can be.
expectation than when you just get a rough. It's like, no, this is finished.
Right.
Like we've decided this is what we want. Now you have to try and recreate.
And nobody wants to listen to their immersive mix and then all of a sudden it sounds completely different from their stereo version that they've been working on for however long. Sometimes they come alongside nowadays that it's being a bit more, thought of beforehand. But a lot of times the mix, you spend all the time on the stereo mix and then it's time for the immersive. And now you're trying to, you know, just make sure you don't change the fundamental feel and emotion and sonic characteristics, you know, in that format. Yeah. So those were, some of the music elements. So that's kind of the flow of how I treated that. And then some 3 and 4 was all the drum elements, drum and bass. And on that channel, which I rarely do this, have a compressor on a drum bus. And it depends on genre, it depends on sound, it depends on the production and the style. But I had just a light compressor on that, right? And I'll play all these elements.
When you say you rarely do that, do you mean you rarely do it full stop or you rarely do it direct and instead do like parallel?
A lot of parallel is my norm, especially if it's a full drum kit. This was a hybrid production where there's a lot of programmed drums, which took a lot of time to get the swing to feel good. And then there's Sam from the band The Hicks. He's an incredible drummer and percussionist. So he played a lot of percussion on these songs too. Some of it imitating what the program drums was, but just having a bit of that live feel, and some of it just some auxiliary instrumentation. But I'll play kind of main drum and bass of this section, because you know that change up is a whole different feel. And then I'll bypass it. The main thing I'm hearing is that word that I keep coming back to on this project, on this track, glue. You hear a little bit more tail on the snare and some of those breaks and some of those fills. You hear a little more tail on the bass. It just kind of brings everything together so that drummer and that bass player are just locked in. When I bypass it, they're a bit more separate. You can identify some of the elements a little easier, but that's kind of the opposite of what I wanted to do on this particular track. Especially the percussion. And the reason why I say that's rare that I'll do on a bunch of songs is because a lot of times if I'm doing a pop record, a big pop sounding thing, you need the drums to have the super punch, you need the bass to have the super punch and have its space and everything to have its, particular lane. But I was just trying to massage everything together. And then on the switch up section, it came into play as well. in his production. And then without it, you hear the hi-hat more. Then when it's in, now that hi-hat is being eaten up by the kick drum, but it feels good. Yeah, so that's some of, what I was doing on the drum and bass track. But what I also had across everything, a lot of times just for a little bit of level, a little bit of soft clipping. Not every channel would there be soft clipping happening. On the music track, the level isn't the same as the drums, so it wouldn't be clipping at all. But on this drum track, a little bit of upward compression. I'll take that off. And then with the upward compression back on, that glue you hear a little bit more of the noise of the bass guitar. You can kind of hear his, exactly, yeah. You can hear his fingers a bit. You hear a little bit of the noise in the percussion recording because that was a live element. So you hear a little bit more of the room. The thing I was chasing the whole time was like, how can I get this to breathe that way? Small moves over time, stacked up, give you this result rather than big, bold moves. This felt like massaging the whole time.
And clipping, is that something you do a lot or is it specifically for this track you're soft clipping because again that's adding that glue, saturating it
Specifically, yeah. A lot of the choices, every choice that I was making was how do I achieve that
just all
in
about
different
one.
ways for it to get there? Because if I did that all in one plugin, it might just be too undefined and you know, a bit mushy and
if you're
not have that
looking for
impact.
separation and clarity, probably do not use it
Then it's hard.
that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. I wouldn't use it to that extent. But it's not completely shaving off everything, you know. That's why I like the soft clipping in this Ozone 11 maximizer. It's a bit of a longer slope.
Yeah.
So it's not just a drastic, oh, now everything's just distorted and saturated. It just has a bit more of a tasteful, gradual, you know, thing.
That's
That
cool.
a lot of some of the analog gear I love has, but in the digital world, you have to kind of find workarounds to.
Because you're not actually doing any limiting in this.
No.
It's just purely
No.
those modules, the
Exactly.
upward, soft clip, the transient emphasis.
Yeah. And I use that across, you know, each of the channels. And it's very unorthodox to how I usually mix, which made it fun because then I'm just going off of instinct and let me try this and see how it works.
It just really speaks, like we talk a lot about having an intent
Yeah.
and also like emotion. So it's just really, it kind of hones that in or like drives that point home where it's like every single decision here is in alignment with that higher level decision of like, how do I want this to sound?
Having an intention before you sit down to start something makes it so much easier to know whether you're doing your job right or not. If you're just going with no
You go in any
goal in
direction.
mind, you don't know when you're done even. You
Yeah.
don't know when it sounds good. You don't know if that move you made was right. Now, there may be some fundamental things of like, okay, a kick drum should have some low end and this and, you know, those kind of things. But past that, it's like, what are you aiming for? Like, what's the vision? A lot of times a producer might have the vision. The producer might not have the vision. So then it's up to the mixing engineer to kind of, you know, put their interpretation on what they hear in the song. And a lot of that is conversation with the producer, conversation with the artist before you start. That will get you to the finish line so much quicker than just doing your thing. And that's when you get a lot of notes back.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, on the upward compress,
Mm-hmm.
can you share with us what you're listening for as you apply it? And specifically, I think it's interesting with that snare, with the live snare, the ghost notes there. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's pulling that up, emphasizing the shuffle.
That's key. The shuffle. I'm glad you said the shuffle because this song is in a very interesting swing and it's very nuanced and took a lot of iterations of programming the drums to get it to have enough swing but not throw off the rest of the instrumentation and the vocal performance. So that upwards compression helped me hear a bit more of that swing without needing to turn up the sounds per se. So it's bringing up those ghost notes and things like that are, you know, very nuanced in a live performance. It's able to bring them up, but I'm not pushing the overall level of everything louder or peaking or things like that. So, because with snares, like, you know, snares are very pokey and they can kind of, you know, command presence and those ghost notes can get lost. But if you just regular compression and slam it, now you don't have the punch from the original hit. So everything is just kind of sounds actually smaller than bigger and wider. So I chose to use upward compression on this, but on the bus so that anything that was doing that low level intricacies can be heard just a little bit more.
Gotcha.
Let's see, let's go into some of the guitar stuff. And I may go even further under the hood on this, because this guitar sound in particular is just such a fun sound to me that I had a lot of fun doing. All you see here is a little bit of compression, but I'll go under the hood so you can see it. A lot of bit of compression.
I love it. Just it's up.
I'll bypass it. It's just a bit too much
that's
jumping out at you. So I slammed it with a very fast attack.
It makes it sound like it's been saturated more.
Yeah.
Hasn't it?
And those decisions were made when this bass was playing, because it's the same player, this guy, Andrew Beckner. He is incredible. They're talking to each other. I spent so much time just listening to that on loop. So my whole goal for those sounds, the bass in general, that particular guitar, was to match the energy of these drums. My guy Tech Beats, he's incredible. So I'll play his drums first. The swing. That swing is absurd. The level of, late.
Is that why the metronome's in there as well?
Yeah, so you can get a little something. And then Sam from the Hicks, he played the kit to that. Imagine trying to lock in with that cadence. Together. So he gave the room sound, the ambient sound. Because without it, all of it was glue. All of it is just, how does it sound like a drummer is just there doing that intricate break, but with support, So that was the goal behind that. And so that's why I had room to make that guitar a lot more aggressive and it not sound out of place, because the drums had that energy, the bass had that energy, and the guitar player. So underneath the hood on that guitar, he recorded it through a Kemper, so it had a little bit of that sound, but I'll go back underneath as you see all the inactive tracks. Let's see right here. The good old Kemper. So I'll play the original. It was a lot cleaner of a sound. Direct out of the Kemper. Then I did some C6, some multi-band compression, expansion to bring out some of those notes. Because I loved how, him using the volume to add those swells. So I was trying to enhance that as well, which is why I used, expansion rather than compression, so that it would react to those swells versus take them away. So that's why I chose to use this. And there's a lot of different tools, to do that. Even the Pro Q3 now does, or the Pro Q4 does a lot of that stuff, which I probably would have used that.
If you had it.
Yeah, back then, yeah.
Kind of similar intent to the upward compression, basically, but frequency
Exactly.
dependent.
And the thing is, though, this doesn't bring out a lot of noise overall because it's only reacting to the loud notes. So it keeps the quieter things. It comes down. And jumps out when those frequencies hit.
Yeah.
And then I slammed it. I wish I had a real tape machine I would have done this with, but I completely cranked it all the way up to plus 24. And that's what gave it this.
This is like the guitar tone everyone wants at the moment.
Yeah.
Very.
It's just in the red the whole time.
Can you actually play I'm interested to hear the tape without the C6, because I feel like
Smoother.
you've lost all of the detail. So it's interesting how those work together.
Yeah.
So you might think like, oh, the tape's gonna give it all this character, but now we're losing all the transient detail.
Whenever he really slammed the guitar.
All of those, all the tasty.
You've got like 5 dB there, and then the Pro C was doing another like 7.
Yeah, because I got it to this point, then some EQ, just a couple of frequencies that were just bothering me a little bit. Cleaned up a little bit of the low end because the bass is also a star in this moment. And the Studer adds a bit of low end too, so I was just cleaning it up after the fact. I wonder if I added noise. Nope, not on this one. That was just the Kemper and the guitar and going through whatever preamp and, you know. Yeah. But the Studer helped bring out a lot of that hiss that just felt so good to me. And then I committed that and then compressed it even more to the sound we hear. Which also gave it a bit of a room sound, but I'm sending it to this Echo Boy. But what I'm doing on it is I'm trying to recreate what a H3000, what is it, Eventide makes, the micro shift. It's a preset that I've just created to try and emulate that sound. If I had a hardware unit, you know, I would have used that. And so you'll see, I use this on a lot of sounds in this song. I use it on the bass as well to give it a bit of more width and stereo.
It's at 100% there, yeah. Yeah,
so this is on a bus, and then I'm sending certain things to it. I'm sending this guitar to it. I'll crank it so you can get a sense. That's it cranked. It just gave a little bit more roomy sound.
Yeah, you don't want a noticeable tail messing things up. You just wanted to give it sounded a bit too dry. You just wanted
it was a bit too mono. I just wanted to get a little bit more, because there weren't a lot of sounds in that section in general, and especially sounds that have like a stereo field. So I wanted that guitar to really stand out.
Just one quick question. So with that like expansion on the guitar that was like pushing up those louder notes, and then going into the
Studer.
Well, and then the two compressors, do you find like the end result, because it's kind of like expanding the louder notes but then compressing them, is the end result still different to kind of not doing either, if that makes sense?
Right. No, because every little bit brings out a certain characteristic, depending on the plugin you use, depending on the gear you use. So the C6 is more a clean sound. It's just kind of surgical, doing what it needs to do. But then the Studer was giving it this glue as well. And then the first compressor, 1176, that gives a little bit of saturation also. I didn't need any more tone after that. I just wanted control. So I used the Pro, C2, which is purely just clean. The way I used it, just control this. Mm-hmm. I don't need any more saturation. There's 3 or 4 plugins in the chain beforehand. It was just poking up a bit too much, and especially when playing with the drums and the bass. I still needed room for Boss's vocal to flow over everything else. So that's kind of why and a lot of times it's not that I'm pre-thinking 6 steps ahead. You're just in it, and then, let me change this. Oh, that wasn't it? Yeah,
I've got it.
Yeah. Cool. Let's go into a little bit of vocals, especially on the verse part. Roxanne, who's an incredible singer, I'll solo her vocal.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while, and maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning, soaked in you while love still adorning.
Her tone is amazing. Everything I'm trying to do is bring out that tone and bring out that feel. This track has a lot of, heavy elements, hard-hitting drums and things like that, and the guitar and the bass. So a light vocal like that, you need to kind of give a bit of compression and saturation. So in the chain, first off, this was probably in the recording session, just cutting out a little bit of mud from the vocal while recording. I'll bypass it and then bring it back.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning. Soaked in you, our love still adorning.
So you're not afraid? Yeah.
I
with it. It's like.
I never care what number a plugin is saying or anything like that. It's just if it sounds good and feels right, then I'm going with it. With some things that may lead to you doing things that aren't conventional or things that, no, that's wrong, but it felt right in the combination of everything. This probably wouldn't be that drastic if some of the plugins later in the chain were doing something else. So that was just cleaning up a bit of, whatever sound of the room, a little bit of compression, first stage, R-comp.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And
very quick release, slow attack, small ratio, 2-to-1 ratio, very fast release, just catching those, those peaks.
How much was that doing? Like,
I just wanna fuck, no more
between 4 and
fighting.
6.
I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately.
Nothing, too drastic. Some de-essing.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're
without it.
hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning.
Just cleaning up some of those S's. A lot of times I'll click it into sidechain mode so you can hear what it's de-essing. You don't do that for too long because you're really hearing them poke out. But sometimes if I can't, tell what frequency it is, I'll do that and sweep around the frequency.
I haven't used this DS much. So it's split mode. Does that mean it's doing it in multi-band rather than?
Yes, rather than a wide. Yep. And then from there into this channel strip, the plugin version of SSL's EQ, I think all I'm doing for this is I'm literally just cutting out some low end. That's all I'm doing. So this is doing nothing drastic. Yeah, it's literally just a high pass filter at 59 hertz. Then there were just some resonant frequencies that I was hearing that were bothering me. So I was dipping those out. And some of these are drastic moves and you have to be careful doing something like this because you can get that comb filtering effect. But it all depends on the source material, the microphone you use, the room you use. Sometimes you need to get a little more surgical, depending on how it sounds. And then another EQ after that was just after some of the compression.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding.
So here I'm just controlling a little more of those upper mid-range frequencies that kind of hurt. If you click this little headphone, it'll solo what that frequency you're taking out.
So you hear it, you're like, that's annoying. Do you do seek and destroy, kind of like the sweep thing, or do you do like a solo?
I like the solo, and I'm rarely, not with this plugin, I don't boost because sometimes with the mouse it could jump, and you don't want that. You don't want the 4K to jump out at you. So the solo mode is just a lot more easier on the ears to search and destroy with. So I like Pro Q3 and Pro Q4 now for that reason. And then I'm doing expansion here. I felt like I may have taken, maybe I felt like I took too much body out of her voice. But rather than just bring all the body back in a previous plugin, I wanted it to be reactive to the velocity of her performance rather than just overall that frequency band just coming back up. So that's why I'm using it in this way.
I just wanna fuck, no more fight.
When she's not singing, it's bringing that down. So any of the in-between noise gets reduced in that frequency range, but it brings back the body of however she was performing.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning. Soaked in you, our love still adorning.
It kind of sounds like she got a little bit closer to the mic, a little bit of proximity effects, for lack of a better term. And that was happening like while the track was playing, because as I added more elements, I'm like, I'm losing her a bit. I don't want to just turn her up because I felt like she was sitting in a good place level wise, but some of that chestiness to come out, it just was a move I tried and ended up liking.
Her vocal is a good example of why you don't take breaths out.
Yeah, because some songs I might reduce some breaths, but some songs it's just part of the performance. And if a vocalist knows how to breathe into the cadence of the song,
Expressive.
very expressive, and that's important. That's important too. I mean, that's a great vocalist will give you that, and so why remove it?
Sneaking it in at such, interesting place.
And that's the tricky thing with compression as well, because you can slam it, and then now the breaths are really loud, and they don't have the cadence that she was performing it with. So I would have in this mix I used a outboard compressor, so the Bluey 1176, the Blackline Audio mix. That's the one I used. So, but I swapped that out with the same settings so you can kind of get a sense. The thing that Bluey gives is a little bit of also some high mid-range kind of bite saturation that particular unit has too. So it would have given you a little bit more character in those frequency ranges, but that compression.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting.
A lot of compression.
I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a
Let me level match it so you can get a sense.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just
7
for
at the
a
highest
while.
points.
Maybe I can get in your mind, and I don't wanna
That's without it.
talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning.
So the first compressor I was doing a much faster attack to just catch some of those peaks. This is giving a little bit more of that, that glue as well, and bringing out some of those breaths and cadence and and feel of the song. And then on top, I'm doing some very high frequency, saturation. Spectre is one of my favorite plugins. It can be tasteful, it can be aggressive, it has a lot of different functionality. But I just needed, as the track was going and as the snares and hi-hats were hitting and everything, I just wanted a little bit more sizzle at the top, and I'll bypass it and then bring it in.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy.
Yeah.
So is that one of your go-tos for any time you need more top end?
It's one of them. The Mag EQ, I'll use a bunch too. Although that reacts differently. It's kind of similar in some ways to a Pultec, where like when you turn something else is getting dipped. So I don't use it on everything. Yeah, this is a good one. Back in the day, I used to use Fresh Air, but Fresh Air sometimes can get a little harsh. Yeah, so this one can be a bit smoother.
One thing I noticed too, which is really cool, is it started to sound a little lispy from the de-essing. It was controlling it, but Spectre kind of brought out a little bit of that sibilance to just put it right back to
but then things don't jump
natural,
out.
Exactly.
Like a controlled,
Yeah, it was like more of a controlled sibilance now. It was cool.
I'll do that a ton. I mean, because it's better to, because what you're doing with the de-esser, which is why I like it fairly early in the chain, is that you're just trying to control what naturally came out, the sibilance, as though they, performed it a different way and had a little bit less sibilance naturally. And then you can kind of bring some of that back. If you can sometimes, de-ess later towards the end too, but then it might just get a bit dark because now it's shaving off some of the natural sibilance that you might like. So control it a little bit earlier so that you can push things a little, more later on. Yeah.
Can you pull up your de-esser real quick on that lead?
Yeah. I still use the waves. Usually waves is first in my chain. And then if I need more de-essing later on, I'll use the Fab Filter de-ess. I love that one. Yeah. I don't like being heavy-handed with the Fab Filter one. It seems, I tend to hear it. the waves, sometimes I get very extreme.
Yeah.
And it's kind of smoother to me.
I wonder if it's a narrower band or something.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like, it'd be interesting to see under the hood
Yeah.
of the differences. Because with the Fab Filter one, you can see very clearly what it's doing. This is very just DS it. I also like the Plugin Alliance has the 902 de-esser. I could pull it up so you could see it. I've been using that a lot lately. The Lindell 902. You may have seen these hardware units. This one's really fun too. I'll do this early on in a chain also. You can add air back into it. It's just like some high frequency material. It has a
this is cool.
mix knob. You know, it's just some flexibility. So this is a cool one also. One thing I want to talk about as well is my mix bus on this song. Maybe halfway through the mix, maybe, is when I started doing some mix bus things. And you'll hear it drastically changes the sound of the song. Further deeper into everything I was talking about in terms of the philosophy behind the mix on this song. But at first, there were just some frequencies that were poking out that I love this plugin for. This plugin is incredible for finding little resonant, things. So a very small cue.
That's interesting. So you kind of hear, because I haven't seen people do that often. Yeah, again, the kind of like resonant, kind of finding the resonant frequencies, but on the whole mix.
Right.
So it's just you notice, I'm guessing first, you notice.
Notice something.
This is
and-
poking out a bit too much in that kind of low end.
And if I identify that it's just like a very specific sound, I'll just go to that sound and address it. But sometimes I just want to kind of get a sense of, all right, where is it? What is it doing? Can I just, tuck it a little bit? So if you click the frequency, it will solo it. So it was just bothering me a little bit. That sometimes it. Just sometimes where the vocal and the snare sometimes just
you can hear where it's just a few different instruments all kind of.
the guitar and the snare.
Move when you're near me, I'm blinded. The way you remain shakes me.
So it's just me, identifying certain spots that I just wanted to tame it a little bit. Sometimes it'll be a Pro Q4 that I do that with, where like there may be some things poking out that I hear and I just want to kind of quickly.
Are you afraid to go back and okay, now these frequencies are messing with me now that I'm going more through the mix and then come back?
That would definitely happen. Yeah, for sure. Where a change I make there, or if I feel like I'm making too drastic of a change there, then I'm like, no, I need to address it elsewhere before it gets to this point.
Yeah.
Then after that, this I got from watching Sean Everett with his vintage warmer on his Mixbus. He would have like 4 of them sometimes. But I just found it so fun to do because it just creates this, frequency world that like feels really good. And that's one of the things I wanted to do for this song in particular and a bunch of songs from the album. So I loaded up 2 vintage warmers. I'll bypass them so you can kind of hear what they're doing.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna
That's the second one.
Lately people's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning. So to you while I'm still adoring.
So it's like saturation and EQ.
Saturation, EQ, some tape compression emulation kind of a thing. But you see my mix knob is very low because this plugin can be very heavy-handed. But even those moves with it at 10% here and at 4.6% here is a drastic changes. I'm doing a lot of drive. I'm just tweaking things until it feels good and is
like
glued
drive
together.
and adding some highs, kind of like an exciter, basically.
Exciter.
Parallel.
That is a lot of the sound of the record as well. And then the Oxford Inflator, which is like just an amazing plugin to give even more of that. Like everything I was trying to do was just stacking saturation, a little bit of compression here and there. I'll bypass it and then.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning. Soak to you while I'm still adoring. And
So with these, are you kind of thinking primarily about adding like energy and excitement, and are you thinking about that in the sense of like, again, kind of like an end goal like glue, or are you just thinking it needs to have that high end energy to kind of compete, or kind of?
I would, a combination of both for sure.
Yeah.
Because I do it like midway through a mix. The vintage warmers may have been on from the recording session, because that's sometimes fun for a singer to perform through hearing that level of glue. But this Oxford inflator definitely would have been where I'm trying to get a little bit more of that. It's kind of soft clipping in a sense in terms of like how it comes across, but a harmonic excitement that this plugin does really well. I did the effect at 100%. I don't always do that. Sometimes, it's a much lesser percentage, but it's a combination of, I just need a little more oomph with something that I can put on that'll get me there, but not completely, destroy the mix. So that's why I would pick that. And then after that, tape machine. If the budget was to run the whole project through tape, I would have, but this plugin is great for just, getting a bit of that sense. It's not the exact same as, what a Studer would do, but so I'll bypass it and then unbypass it so you kind of get a sense.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning. Soak to you while I'm still adoring it.
It kind of extends the low end. It cleans a little bit of low mids. It's a little smiley facey to some extent. So, that's kind of the Mixbus.
Do you normally do that like halfway through? You kind of like faders up, the initial things grab your attention, and then you kind of move into Mixbus, or do you ever do it early and mix into it?
I generally don't mix into it as much. There's one song on the project where I went crazy. I filled it up and I had just a whole bunch of. That was a fun mix to do, but that's very. You can paint yourself into a corner, doing that. I'll do that as a creative choice versus as a a workflow choice. But that's kind of that's the Mixbus and what it's doing. I'll bypass all the harmonic stuff. I'll see if I need to level match it, but
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind. And I don't wanna talk to them lately. People's words just get me so crazy. I just wanna wait till the morning. Soak to you while I'm still adoring it.
it's interesting too when I bypass everything, the song feels a little bit faster. If you notice that.
I just wanna fuck, no more fighting. I just wanna be where you're hiding. Maybe even just for a while. And maybe I can get in your mind.
Those longer tails slow the pace down a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which I never noticed that before now, just doing that.
Did in terms of the master after this, did you find that Depp did quite a lot to it, or did it end up being?
There's a combination through the project. For this song, he's very much whatever the song needs, he'll do, and then he saw the vision of the whole project. Like he was able to. This was a single, so this came early on, but then when we mixed the whole album and then gave him the whole album, he went back and touched it up too. Because he's like, okay, no, this is what the sonic palette is.
You get the content.
Which is, I mean, that's incredible for a mastering engineer to even do that. They see the full vision of what the body of work is and how it should sound.
As opposed to just a technical.
As opposed to just, oh, that song is done, so we're just doing the next one now. So yeah, but I think he was running some stuff through Gear. He was adding more to that, the sonic characteristic that everything had. And then because the album has an arc of sonic textures, he was giving it all a home to live in. And I think that's what a great mastering engineer, like, that's their job. It's not just to get everything to sound loud but it's to give the project and, to help make sure that the listening experience of that project from top down, one, nobody jumps for their volume fader, but also that it feels like it's in a similar world, unless the intention is to bring people all over the place. So I think in the mastering process, that can help, especially when a project is done over a long period of time. One mastering engineer doing the entire album is very key because they have a clearer perspective listening to everything and then being able to massage through EQ and compression and whatever else to make sure that everything lives together and flows together in a certain way. Because, it might not be that everything needs to be the same loudness per se, but that the listening experience from top down feels natural and feels seamless. So it's super important. And you may even go back in the mix phase now that you have all those songs done. Like, okay, these 3 songs that's the North Star. What can we do to get the other ones to work with that before you even go to mastering?
Right.
But that's just a choice that you may want to make.
Can I ask a question that's not related to that?
Sure.
Just a little bit about your background, how you wound up getting into this,
Yeah.
and your journey to get here.
Yeah, for sure. So in high school is when I first started tinkering around, and production was the first thing that I fell in love with. I had like a little beat machine that my friend had, and we would just we didn't know what we were doing, make tracks on that. And then I started getting into like computer production. So FL Studio, FL3 is my first, first DAW that I worked on, just learning how to sequence. I had the trial version, so all you could do was bounce it at the end, bounce the MP3, and you couldn't save the project. So yeah, that was the trial version for a while. And so that just kind of got my love for it in high school. And then I ended up moving from Boston to New York to go to school for it. So I went to the Clive Davis Institute at NYU, and that was an intensive 4-year program, production engineering, like what is a microphone? How do you set up a microphone for acoustic guitar? Like how far should the vocalist be from the mic? Like all those tools, mixing, business, all of that. So that's kind of where I honed my skills in terms of the fundamentals and the philosophy of production and engineering.
They gave you a lot of hands-on there?
A lot of hands-on. They had these beautiful studios. Back then they were on Mercer Street. Now they are in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn. They have a beautiful facility there. So, some hands-on experience. That was kind of my journey of like discovery and, figuring out how does all this stuff work and how to do that and the patch bay and all those kind of technical things. And then I was also, while in school, just running around to every studio that would let me in the door, collaborating with other producers, with songwriters, with engineers, with artists, just running around New York. Back then, there was a lot more studios in general. So you can kind of stumble into situations. You meet somebody here and they end up working over there and things like that. And, in college is when I met Boss and J. Cole and that whole team and that whole camp. And they were, some of the people that we was just coming up together, just creating music and trying to find a sound and things like that. And so I've been recording Boss since he first started like recording songs. So just that journey of being with an artist and seeing their development and seeing their growth. And then you learn as an engineer and as a producer how to grow with them. And then when I graduated, ended up getting a studio space in Bushwick. And me and a couple of partners of mine, we were there for 15 years. Those early days was just anybody needs studio time, just working with as many people as possible, up and coming artists, established artists, like just trying to get your foot in the door, those kind of things. And so, but from that and from the growth of Boss and just working nonstop, I've been able to work in various aspects of whether it be recording, mixing, production, I've always had a love for all of it. So one artist might know me as a mixer and then another artist might know me as a vocal producer, but it keeps me creative and keeps me fueled I may have a different role than I thought I was going to have coming into the studio that day, but that's kind of been the arc of it. Now we've really, top of this year, just moved into Manhattan to a studio there, to just keep doing the same thing, keep creating.
Do you feel like technology's moved with you and you've moved with it? Or did it throw you off? Did the rug get pulled out from under you at any point?
I think I came into the industry at a sweet spot where I was young enough to not be indoctrinated into anything, but also got some of the experience of the benefits of what analog gear, or just what that process can do for you. And it's less about the sound and more about the patience and the repetition and the learning a skill that I think is what has been able to even, hone my taste and just my being able to communicate with an artist, or, talk to a musician and try to get a performance out of them is from those hands-on skills. But then the technology is just being able to keep up with the pace of how quickly things move now. So I think I came into it at an age where I was able to have a bit of both worlds, so I could still appreciate, that process, and then still do it now at some points. It's a lot more expensive to do it that way. So I feel like that's a big reason why less people take that approach. But then if I need to be in a hotel room and record an artist and they need something done really fast, I can pull it up and we can get the thing done. So I think that's the benefits of both
If
worlds.
somebody's just starting in this age of plugins and working in the box, what do you think the hazards are there?
I mean, the sky's the limit, which is amazing, but it's also the sky's the limit and it can be dangerous up in the sky. Because if I think it's you can skip the foundation of like what's behind why the plugin even looks like that and why the plugin works the way it does. They could miss the true understanding, underneath the hood. If all they know is just, okay, boom, 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 and they're just going. Me being able to see a plugin, but actually understanding, what a compressor in general is and why it reacts a certain way, just leads to a bit more, a depth of understanding that can help the creative process and help you get to an end goal. If you get stuck, you can lean on that knowledge. And so I think that might be a not dangerous, but a pitfall of the speed of technology. But it's also, we're going to start hearing things that could never have been done without the technology. And I think that's really exciting. And a generation coming into it now, there is no, standard of, oh, it needs to sound like this. They're just pure creative, which I think is, can be really cool to create things. I mean, imagine when the amplifier first came into play and now it goes from acoustic guitar to now amplified. That just opened up a world for a new league of guitarists,
What about AI? Big question, but you're living in that world, as are all of us, and you're doing very human work. So
I feel the same way about it because we were using plugins with AI and we didn't even realize it even beforehand. Now everything is just in the forefront, and then the whole creation of a song you can just do by prompting. And I think that just kind of loses a lot of the human aspect. But I think people who are able to recognize a tool for what it is as a tool and to just enhance their creativity, I think it can, yield some amazing results. But I don't think it's necessarily gonna like replace the session musician or replace the mix engineer, because taste is such a part of all of that. And at this iteration of AI, it doesn't have taste yet. Who knows? I don't know enough about all of it.
be able to emulate taste, I guess. But
Right.
it has to be a specific person's taste. It can't be itself.
Exactly. So that's why I feel like, the human aspect is just gonna always be there, because it always has been through technology, at least in the creation of music.
How much of your mixing are you doing in the box versus going outboard?
I'm pretty hybrid. I would say I'm majority in the box. And then if I'm in a room that has something, I'll usually if I have the time and the flexibility, I just want to see what it does. And it's fun for me, just that tactile aspect. But I would say I'm mostly in the box, but then there's a couple of, at some point it would have run through something. A vocal, I think I'm always gonna run it through something at some point. Or drums, I'm gonna try it through something at some point. If it wasn't recorded that way. If it was recorded just purely digital, I love to inject it in something. I'll just run it through a preamp just to, now that's my new stem, you know, with that on, even if I'm not sitting there mixing through that. I love that. And then just having knowledge of the recording process helps inform that too. It's like you can hear it sometimes, but sometimes things are recorded in the digital aspect, like they just have an ear for getting that sonic characteristic, and I don't need to run it through anything. It just has it. But I like trying it, especially if I have the time.
Or if it just sounds flat and lifeless, boring.
Yeah.
Pick up on that.
Yeah, because I also, you know, sometimes you can get there quicker with gear. You can get to the same result, but it might take 3 plugins versus 1 piece of gear. So if I have that gear, I'll reach for that first. But I'm not personally like precious about it where, you know, I'm just purely analog. Although doing that is very fun. It's just a lot more rare because it can be expensive to do. I don't have a full, you know, wall of, you know, compressors and preamps and stuff like that to be able to do that at my leisure. So being on somebody else's dime at a studio, they just want the result. They don't want you to sit there like, no, just give me 6 hours. Like we're gonna run this.
Try every compressor in my.
But I mean, the beauty of working with somebody like Jon Batiste is he's in love with that process. And he understands the patience that it takes. He has the patience for it. And so
Yeah, it just depends on that artist you're working with.
it's yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Jon Batiste. I've seen him many times. I got to meet him in Montreux at the Jazz Festival. Tell me more about what you've done with Jon Batiste.
Yeah. So I met him on a random gig where I was kind of I was working at a venue and we were tasked with someone's gonna come in and record a 60-piece orchestra, and the venue was not equipped for that. But I knew the system, I knew where the inputs were, you know, things like that. So it was a team of us to just kind of help assist and help get the mics up and things like that, show the Pro Tools rig. John had his own engineer. So I was tasked with, hey, help them out, help them get everything set up and make sure the Pro Tools, make sure all the inputs works. It ended up being that John wrote the piece for that. It was for an NBA playoffs commercial and he wrote the piece. And so it was my first time meeting him. We were up in this tiny little booth and then there is an orchestra down in the, you know, the live, well, the venue recording, and we were just in that booth. It was me, John, and a couple other people. You know, he's just high energy and all that. We're feeding off each other, and all I was doing was making sure everything works good. But I don't know, maybe he saw something or caught a vibe and energy, and so he reached out. And I remember it because the question he asked me was, he DM'd me, said, "Do you know how to mix live?" That was the question. That was it. And I was yeah. I didn't know what he meant because that can mean a lot of things. That can mean a lot of things. I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, cool. And his manager reached out and he was like, oh, John wants you to mix his Austin City Limits PBS special. That was the first thing I did with him.
Because I thought you meant like a concert, but actually it didn't even mean that.
It was just, you know, they taped the Austin City Limits and then some of the performances ended up being a special. So that was us mixing that at Power Station here in New York. And then since then, I've been recording him. I've been mixing songs. I've been, just running around with him. Just did Jazz Fest, New Orleans Jazz Fest, and with him like recording all of the shows and things like that, and in the studio. So
it's funny just speaking to different people, and there's always a degree of chance, or like just right place, right time, and that, like you said, just kind of catching a vibe and that relational side.
I almost didn't do that gig.
Yeah,
because it was last minute. I said, a 60-piece orchestra. I'm like, we don't have enough microphones for it. And so I knew it was going to be a bit of a scramble and and I was working just part-time at that venue, just kind of, you know, freelance. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And then it ended up to us working, you know, for, I guess, five years at this point, something like that.
Mm-hmm. We were talking this morning with Kevin about the reverb.
Yeah.
And did you do that where you did it on you know, you put more of it on the background singers when they were singing together and less on the main vocal?
Oh yeah. So there's some backgrounds here that are swimming in reverb at the turnaround section of the song. So
In just a matter of ways, I'm willing to take upon life.
So those are swimming. In particular, this one, This one. Ram is incredible for that effect. Very long pre-delay. And more backgrounds. I'm sending a bit of those to a plate, which I'm using little plate in this song. 4-second delay. Those are getting a bunch of that. And then I think these stacks are probably getting us the same or a similar amount of plate. Yeah, less of these. And then also a little bit of echo, a little bit of a ping pong. I have this preset, it's a ping pong filter, which is Echo Boy, quarter note, but in ping pong, so quarter and then half note after that. In the AM radio style, I love Echo Boy because you can really craft the sound of the delay. So it's a bit more of a filtered, sound. I push the saturation all the way up. And then after that, I filter it even more and then throw a doubler on it. That's probably in default mode. And then decapitator on top of it to add even more tail. And then deverb after that to add even more. And that's this ping pong effect. I'll make it drastic so you can kind of get a sense of what it's doing. I'll bypass all the other effects.
In just a matter of ways, I'm willing to take upon it.
Is the pitch shifting coming from the doubler? Is that what's kind of giving?
Yes, down an octave on that. Yep. Nice. So it's just a weird preset that I've created and I've always saved, and I'll pull up, in most sessions. But a lot of times I'm doing a very tiny amount of it. It's just adding a little bit more atmosphere to the song. One thing that would be interesting to look at is, I think it's this organ sound. I put it into a space. I love altiverb for just putting things in a specific world or a specific space. So if I bypass it, it's a bit drier. It's like it's in a hall, reverberating out. And then I put lo-fi after it, because without it, and with lo-fi, it's just like a, kind of a bit crusher kind of effect. Just messing with the sample rate. Gives you that extra little bite that I wanted to get, extra frequencies in there. So I'll do that all the time, those kind of, creative effects.
What did you use on her main voice?
On her main vocal was a combination of that plate reverb, that same little plate. I'm also sending a little bit to a quarter note delay, which is, I'm just using H delay in lo-fi mode, so it kind of darkens it a bit. I'm not using a half note, not using an eighth note. I'm using a hall as well. And that hall, I'm using Valhalla. I EQ it always, before and afterwards sometimes, depending on, the characteristic I'm trying to get. That was just a frequency I heard poke out, and so I drastically took it out before it even hit the reverb. Because some of these reverbs, they'll drastically change depending on the curve hitting it. Valhalla, I'm cutting out the low end in the plugin as well, and a lot of the high end, and then just carving out a little bit more at the end. Because when you're pushing a lot of reverb into something, that's when you really need to, because things will just jump out too much and swim too much.
Do you tend to have effects is kind of saved as channel presets, or do you tend to do it on?
I think a lot of that came in the recording session. They were just in there in my recording template at the time. That was probably, and then I may add certain things. You have some go-tos. You always want to have a delay or a reverb just kind of handy. Because, you know, when an artist is like, oh, can I get a little more reverb? All right, 1 second, let me create a bus. Let me do this. Let me pull up a plugin. It's just the creative flow can slow things down. So just having it there ready to go, just, you know, it helps bring out the performance even more.
Yeah.
If they hear it a certain way, they may perform it differently.
Yeah, they react to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's all, you know, it's all breathing. And then, yeah, that ping pong delay I spoke about. A little bit of a room, which I use Seventh, no, that's not the one I use on the vocal, but I use Seventh Heaven, this Studio K. I don't know, I've used for a while to just add a little bit of if I feel a vocal is a little, if the room they record in is a little too dead, then I may add that. And it's just a little bit of early reflections. All the late reflections are off. Like it's all just, if they were in a little bit.
It's dimension.
Yeah, just a little bit more width there.
Is that kind of still typical for you, like having just a plate, a hall, a room, and there you kind of let your
Play the whole room, and then maybe a delay, and then if they hear creative things in the tracking process, then you know we may expand on that.
Yeah, and then will you do like BVs in their own? Would they have
depending
their own reverb or just the same?
Depending, or I'll push more into either the plate or the hall.
Yeah,
the opposite of whatever the lead is doing. Yeah, just to give it a different character.
Will you track both the dry and her mix, or you don't bother? You just do it all later.
It depends on the studio and the setup, to be honest, because for a majority of this project, she was probably just getting whatever I was hearing in the studio, she was hearing in her headphones, with maybe a little control over her vocal level she could boost or not. Mm-hmm. But when I go to the mix process, I'm starting at that point. So I'm starting at whatever we built.
Wherever you were.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then, like, I'm not redoing reverbs or redoing, unless it was just so running gun that I just threw on a deverb and called it a day. I know I want to try more things. But a lot of the times I go with whatever everybody's in love with up to that point, and then get creative. And then, you know, the artist may come back and say, I like there was something about the reverb from before. And then it's like, all right, remove the ego and go back to what we had.
Can you touch on Boss's vocal processing a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So he has a little bit of auto-tune on his singing part, on his singing section. I love messing with the humanize. If an artist wants to use auto-tune, I'll have them record with the auto-tune on a lot of times, because tracking it dry and then putting it on, they're like, my vocal sounds different. Like, so, you know, there's certain auto-tune versions that are more friendly towards tracking live than others. Nowadays, I use auto-tune hybrid a lot. That seems to be a bit more stable than this version in terms of using different studios and different computers. De-essing, always on the way in. Boss has he has a very sibilant voice. Then a bit more EQs, whatever room I was hearing some certain frequencies poking out. 1176, it's how I would, you know, if I was tracking it through gear. 1176 with a fast attack and a fast release, just catching those peaks. Our comp again. Then I'm doing some dynamic compression, dynamic multiband. Fab Pro MB is great for multiband. It can be a CPU hog if you use too many of them. So now I just use the Pro Q4 to do the same thing, because it kind of has that built in. It has more parameters, but the way I use it, I don't dive too deep under the hood. So that's just controlling a little bit of his, dynamic performance across frequency spectrums. This is probably no compression at all on this plugin. Yeah, I'm just using it for a little bit of a boost at 14K and then cutting out a little bit of, 80 hertz, just cleaning up some mud, a little bit more mud. Yeah, this is the Waves one, the G channel one. There's some times where I'll choose a very specific plugin for something that I'm hearing, but there's so many versions of some of these plugins that a lot of times it's whatever I see first. I'll pull it up. Especially when it comes to like small moves and small changes. A lot of them are doing the same thing, you know. Then a little bit more multi-band compression. I love the C4. I think it's one of the most musical, or can be one of the most musical multi-band compression plugins. It's so classic and just, it's been around forever, but it still works. So I love that. a little bit more compression after the fact, and then good old Spectre. He likes his vocal bright, but also present. So we choose the microphones based on that. Like, you know, he likes a C800 mic. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's some of his lead vocal. And then he has these backgrounds that he's singing that I'm using Sans amp on to just create a weird and dark world. So let me solo some of this.
Silence is off button, killing me softly, and damn it, they all look
That whole Sans amp overdrive feel.
I just wanna talk to you, yeah. There's nothing new here. I'm stuck to you, yeah. No substitute, yeah.
So those highs, Chris Lord Algae, it's just a ton of chamber and spreader and widener, and I'm trying to set those back, but still, you know, fill up the space, because I want his lead to be stuck.
Silence is off-putting, killing me softly, and damn it, they all looking. Fuck if they all see this. I just wanna talk to you, yeah.
And then Sam is singing underneath him.
Silence is off-putting.
See how Sam's vocal comes in and is filling up those low mids? Everybody has a character to play. And Sam is really good at like, his vocals have just like this warm kind of feel. And then Boss has this bright biteness to the performance, so they kind of work well together.
Silence is off-putting.
Because without it,
Killing me softly,
it doesn't have its fullness.
Looking, fuck if they all see this. I just wanna talk to you, yeah. There's nothing new here.
You know, everybody plays a role and plays a part. Then his vocal, I'm doing similar things, a little bit of de-essing, a little bit of compression, a different compressor to get a different characteristic for the background vocal than the lead, because I don't want them to sound like they're the same person, so I don't want to treat them the same exact way. You know, a bit darker of a compressor, a longer tail, you know, a slower release. I mean, I love LA2As. I'll use LA2As on background vocals a lot and push into them a bit more to get some of that glue and character. I love UAD's version of them. They sound great. And then taming, this is an example of throwing Pro DS at the end to tame some of those highs, because I got all the highs I needed out of Boss's vocal. Let me see, is there anything else? The bass was an interesting thing. I don't do this all the time, where I split in the low and high signal and then compress them separately. You have to be very careful with that, because you can't just use any plugin to split the crossover frequency because of phase issues. But it just so happens that this plugin, the Lin MB, which is an amazing plugin, it's a CPU hog, or it can be, but this, when you split the crossover points, it's perfect. Like, it sums. I've like done an old test. Like, it's amazing.
Why did you do that?
So then I compressed the low frequency information of the bass separately from
Is it a different compressor?
the same compressor, but maybe different settings.
Okay.
But it's as though you're using a multi-band compressor, basically. I wanted that DB X160 compression, and there's no multi-band like version of it. So that's why I split them up to do that. The DBX just does a certain like aggressive, like nasty thing that I love sometimes. So mostly, I'll put on the left is the low and then the high. The high probably doesn't even compress like that. Yeah, barely. So then I'll bypass them both.
I'm curious if you turn off the high compressor and then AB with the compressor on, like AB the compressor on and off on the low one. Yeah, so what you're hearing is the gain from the high compressor driving that up to get that mid-range. It's not like the compressor is doing a crazy amount.
And because of the amount of compression the bass is doing, the low side is doing, they're the same output gain, but drastically different.
like locking in the low end, so it's just like consistently there.
There's
Then
so
you get
much
the
swing in
dynamics
this
of the-
track. Like the bass has to
Yeah,
be controlled in terms of those low end frequencies, but I want to hear the detail of the finger,
Yep.
you know, and all of that, and the saturation that's on top. And then these live drums. What helped lock in a lot of the live drums was auto align post. He just has such a cool touch. You see, I'm not doing anything to these. These are just going through whatever bus. I think he just used the brush on the snare to give that shuffle.
Those details are huge
It's everything.
in the feel and the swing of the drums.
And then over here, he's just kind of helping this section. He's adding what that's doing. He's just a tasteful player, you know, just knowing the right amount of what to add to enhance that swing, because that swing was everything to
So
the track.
in the full acoustic kit, the kick's in there, but have you is it kind of cutting out a lot of the low end so that it's the sample that's mostly filling out the
Right, because that could get messy. I didn't want to vocalize the, you know, the jump like that wouldn't have sounded right. So this is what he played and how it sounded. Then on the overheads, some transient design, really. I took out the sustain of the low end and then left the highs alone.
Especially with all the resonances that can come through across the other parts of the kit.
Decapitator on the bus of all that. Smashed in punish mode. You know, in parallel, but smashed. And then some more transient, multi-band transient design, which Neutron Transient Shaper is amazing for that. So I'm just pushing a little more attack on the mid-range, sustain down, and a little bit of attack on the low end. And then I don't think I'm touching anything, on the upper bands. So this is without that. Snap. But you see, no EQ, no, just. And then with those brushes.
I'm assuming the click is inside the zone.
Well, the click is in his program drums. We heard it, and somebody was like, "Oh, the what is that, Ableton?" Somebody was like, "Yo, the Ableton click is in your print." I was like, "Well, it sounds great."
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I love that.
It's telling us what he ignored to create that groove. It's just something, you know, we tried it without it, and it's just like, it doesn't have the same. Yeah, it doesn't have the same thing. You know, it's really just transient design of the low end. Taking some of the sustain
So
out.
it's just, instead of doing the usual thing of like boosting the crap out of the low end of the kick, it's quite a natural kick sound, and then, all the low end is coming from the sample.
When we had Kevin in here this morning, one of his pro tricks was to make EQ-like moves with other tools. And one specific one was multi-band transient shapers to, you hit the attack on the high frequency.
Yeah.
And it's totally an EQ move, but
Yeah.
you're using an EQ.
I mean, that's all tools are. It's just volume, spatial
Yeah, that's true.
placement and frequency placement. It's all frequency, volume control, and if you break it all down to the building blocks, that's what all these tools do. So, yeah, you can for sure I use the, decapitator, or a lot these days I'm using Devil-Lock a lot to just give me something gnarly in the mid range. Let me try that before trying an EQ.
Can you talk a little bit about how you use space in this production? Because it's very dramatic. There's a lot of space. There's a lot of almost silence.
Yeah, especially in that transition between the the kind of the main section and then a little bit of sound design, and I think that's a lot in the the production process of like, how do we take people on a journey but not completely throw them off to where they're like, oh, what's this? A lot of time was spent trying to figure out how to connect those two worlds of those two sections, because they're both have a hip hop feel, but that second one is just a lot more aggressive. So for that to feel even more aggressive, you have to go to a super calm place. And so that's kind of the decisions of like, let's make it seem like maybe even the song is ending, because that section is similar to how the intro was. And then boom, so that you don't expect that switch. And then Boss comes in with a full rap rather than a singing verse. And that's the genius of Boss, of just understanding, arrangement in general.
The songs, like, I really felt like I'd been in a journey.
Yeah.
And I was really sucked into something involuntarily.
Yeah.
By the end of the song.
Unexpected.
Yeah, all the layers that you had were so powerful at the end, and I think the silence was a huge part of setting me up for that.
Yeah, and that's the key, is like, there's some songs where you just want the straight ahead, somewhat predictable, but it just feels so good. Sometimes you want that, and then sometimes you want to take more risks, for that. And this whole project was that, and especially the song. And that's partially why it was a first single as well, to kind of let people know this is going to be a little bit different, this body of work.
I think my favorite aspect of the mix is when the female vocal is in there. It seems like you found the space for that with little effort. It feels effortless. It's not like she's riding on top of the mix, and it's not like you struggle to hear any piece of it. You're hearing it in great detail. Do you think that the song benefited from the production and the fact that there's not a lot of competing elements in the mid-range? Or do you feel like, the moves that you made during the mix carved the space? Personally, I don't feel like you needed to carve it. It seemed like
it was there.
There was a lot of
it was
space.
there.
Just hear the breaths and the verb, the tail. Everything is so audible about that vocal, although you've got a lot of, noisy things going on.
Yeah, I think that's the key for just song making in general, is like, nothing beats just a good song. Nothing beats a good arrangement. You can create that sometimes in a mix, you can enhance that, but if it's not there to begin with, then you're fighting against other things. So a good, producer mind and songwriters really that know how to carve that arc and build that arc and do the right things and remove things, There's been so many iterations of this song and just of those things of, does it need it? If you mute it, do you miss it? And in each section. Yeah. And that makes my job so much easier, because then I'm not trying to find the space. I'm just enhancing the creative vision. And I think that's when like songwriting, production, and mixing and mastering, like kind of, it's like the perfect storm of when you can do that.
Performance, a lot of times it's what you don't play.
Yeah.
Learning to just shut up is a skill.
And as an engineer and as a producer, knowing when to say, all right,
shut up with the plugins.
And then that comes from time and just, experience of doing too much. And, if I probably listened to songs earliest in my career, I'm trying to mix, you need to hear that I did something versus.
You don't feel like you're doing your job.
Yeah. If you see like some of the some content of like some of the best mastering engineers of some of the biggest records in the world, and they pull up their session and it's like one little EQ move and one limiter,
Yeah.
and it sounds you know.
Because
Yeah.
it was great to begin with, right? I mean,
I always tell students of ours, hey, the sign of a really good mix engineer is one who will beat out a beginner with just the volume faders.
Yeah,
We'll literally
good
get
point.
a better mix.
That's a good point.
No joke. I mean that. That's not an exaggeration.
less is more, right? That goes.
Yeah, assuming obviously that the sounds have been chosen, you know, well, but yeah.
Even when they haven't, I think that can still be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Because when you have a lot of problems, that's where you do get into a place where you're tempted to do more to try and solve the problems, but then
Totally.
you just over process.
Yeah.
Versus just like, oh, it just needs to be turned down a bit.
Yeah.
The guitar that sounded really bad,
Yeah.
turn it down a bit.
Or muted.
Yeah.
Mute it. Yeah, literally, I'll mute it.
You know what I got from this? You have like a good amount of creative input on how you like produce this track alongside Boss and like the Hicks. And you know, I think it's cool because I'm a fan of Boss. Just the way he evolved as an artist over the years from just like primarily hip hop. Now I feel like he's like more like a folk sound.
Yeah.
And then now like you as a, like an engineer working with him for like such a long time.
Yeah.
Like your artistry now is building on top of that.
I think that's the you know, a key of a good artist is knowing how to elevate everyone around you, you know, because nobody can do it themselves. There's few people that can do it themselves. There's few Tame Impalas, you know, but knowing who to lean on and recognizing what that person has and then recognizing and then knowing how to pull out even more from them. I think Boss is amazing at that, of just recognizing talent and knowing how to, and that's just taste. He has a great level of taste in identifying and removing his ego and just saying, okay, this person can help enhance. And over time, like you said, you know, seeing that growth is amazing to see and is fun to be a part of because it just makes the process just purely fun versus anything else. Like,
Would you approach the mix differently if you hadn't produced it, or is it?
that's a good question. Probably. I think just naturally, yeah. Being involved in the whole process of it, you can't. There's a certain perspective you just can't have.
Right.
You can't just, you know, forget all of that. So those experiences and those moments in the studio and those choices that were made, you're just that much more invested in it, which can be for better, but it also can be for worse because it's like you don't have a certain perspective necessarily on the technical aspect of, you know, just coming in and hearing it for what it is. I'm hearing it through all the iterations and all of that. So I'm sure I would mix it differently. I would probably make the same choice of what I was trying to accomplish, but the end result, I'm sure, would be different.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel like there's anything in there that you're doing that's so aggressive that it would be stepping on the toes of the production or like beyond the remit of kind of what a mixing engineer would do. It's just that you've got a very in-depth level of context and relationship already there that a separate mix engineer wouldn't have. But
And maybe I got there quicker, maybe, than if I was coming at it fresh. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure it would sound just a bit different.
If you had taken it to a different person to mix, what would you have told them?
Yeah, I would have explained, and the artist definitely would have explained what we were trying to get across in general of a project, and then also, you know, what we love about what we already have. Yeah. And then I love giving mixers, you know, when I'm just passing something off to mix, a bit of creative freedom to just try some stuff. Don't just, you know, clean it up. Like, try some things too, because we want to see that. That's why we're going to you, you know? Especially if I can mix it myself, like, I'm passing it off because I think somebody else can get that vision across. So I want to see their perspective or hear their perspective. So, but it would still be that just overall philosophy of this is what we love about the rough. This is what we think could be better.
Philosophy, because you have a strong philosophy.
Yeah.
For this project, more so than a lot of projects, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think do you generally try and have that much clarity on kind of the end intent or like a holistic concept like glue?
I try to have that conversation at least ahead of time. And not every artist has that clarity
like,
as well,
whatever,
and they're
just
just
want it
like,
to sound
we just want it to sound better, you know. And then you come up with it on your own, and then you have that dialogue, and it may go through a couple different versions to get there, but always try to have a conversation ahead of time. Otherwise, the process is just going to be
And there's
much longer.
yeah, something interesting there. You said even if they don't give that, you're going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to create that intent, that philosophy.
because I just personally I want there to be a goal that I'm reaching for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think most people don't have. And that's why they're like, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. Because they don't have a goal. They're just
true.
loading up plugins randomly and end up just making things sound different. Or the first step is getting to like a baseline of acceptability. Like,
Right.
It sounds like professional. But as soon as you get there, beyond that, it could be anything. There's ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been mixed 50 different ways and still been great 50 different ways, But it's like, what's the intention behind it? I'm always assuming, especially in this day and age, in this time period, is that the rough mix is like, that's what everybody's in love with at this point. So my goal, if I'm going in blind, is to just not completely change. Yeah, not completely dismantle it. That usually gets you to a good starting point in conversation when you get feedback, if you've given them just a bit more of what that feels like. Because if you just fully go in, even if the vision you have for it is, something that's really cool, a lot of times when an artist hears that, it's just so different that they may not have the perspective to say like, okay, I see what they're doing. They may just say like, I just don't like it.
Different ways.
Yeah, it's just different, So I always start with, if I don't have a lot of, lead time with the artist or with the A&R or the manager or the producer or whoever, I use the rough mix as like, okay, this is what they're going for. And then sometimes it might be a conversation with the artist. Like, I think this is great. I don't think I can add anything to this, and being
Either
honest
way,
about
they're coming to him or whoever for that opinion.
Yeah, right. Even if my opinion is, I think this sounds perfect.
Yeah.
That's a move in and of itself. Calling it done.
You can get a lot of trust doing that as well.
Yeah.
They'll come back.
So much of it's knowing when to step in and insert a plugin and when to step back and not do anything. Like if you can have that ear, but it goes back to the taste and the direction in the first place.
Yeah, and just trusting your
You're
ear.
right though, it is hard to it's hard to do without any conversation with the artist, but that's where you get to have your own fun.
And I think part of that maybe also what in terms of the conversation between analog and digital, is some of the benefits of from that analog era is there's just less visual feedback and visual stimulation from seeing all the things and the the GUIs and all that kind of stuff that can really change what you're hearing,
This is overwhelming to me. I can relate more to that.
Right. One of my mentors was Mixed by Ali, who did a lot of, Kendrick Lamar. I mean, he's done everybody, but he came up through that TDE with all the Kendrick Lamar stuff, his big hits. And he was an analog SSL, mixer, but he also was in the box, doing some things. But he would close his eyes and EQ.
Yep.
And just, that feels right. And then move on. Not even look at what did I do there? Like, no, it just...
Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of like closing your eyes, because it's almost then it's like an extension of yourself more.
Yeah.
So it's like you become one with the equipment.
It's a performance also,
You can't do that with a plugin. Like you can only do that if you're literally.
Yeah. And they have some, controllers now that kind of
True,
are
yeah.
mapped. I think like SSLs doing stuff like that and things like that, which are fun. I don't need more stuff.
Right.
But there's a lot of benefits. I would love that. I would love to, the whole thing of a Pultec EQ is the fact that you can move both knobs at one point and find the sweet spot. And you can't do that with a mouse. So, there's some plugins that I would like a controller or thing for to then replicate that,
Yeah.
You find yourself miking drum kits often?
A decent amount, not a whole lot.
What are your favorites? The mics?
On a kick, I love a 47 on a kick.
Wow.
The beefy, kind of sound. It all depends too on the genre and the style we're going for. The drum kit. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm very simple, 57, 57s on the snares. Overheads depends on the sound. I love if I can get like some ribbon mics on the overheads, whether it's Coles or I've done Royers, but I've also done like U67s, depending on what you're going for, or like KM84s, some small condensers, but the darker ones like the 84s. Yeah, I mean, it depends on a lot. Toms, I mean, I still like the 421s, and then what are those Neumann, are they the 160s or something like that? If you're going for like a vintage thing, sometimes it's just a bunch of like those kind of microphones, or just a crotch mic and then a overhead, and that's it. It's 2 mics. There's just a lot of different. Yeah, that can be fun. Room mics, I love something warm if it's a room, so a ribbon or something like that. But yeah, I've experimented with a lot of things with drums. It's just like even how how a drummer tunes it and all of that, and you can get so many different sounds. And I love running drum microphones through gear on the way in. Like that's fun. I like doing things on the way in if I can, if I'm at a studio that has that capability and committing to a thing. Unless I'm doing if I'm doing like jazz or something, like there's some things where it's like a bit more, preserve as much of the original sound of the instrument as possible. But when I can have the fun, I'm trying all types of stuff and things and it's funny because I only interned at a studio for a short amount of time. Like I was mostly just working with producers and I was getting my studio experience that way by just collaborating. So I didn't have a lot of this is the right way to do things or, so when I get in front of a drum kit, I'm just trying things. And then if we have time to just experiment with sound, like that's what I'm going for. And then you kind of find your go-tos depending on what you're looking for. But I do a lot of unorthodox things, just out of.
Piano.
That's a very wide range because, recording piano with Jon and all that stuff. If it's like a pop thing, I'll get some small diaphragms like over the hammers. Sometimes I'll do like an XY thing or to get some of the close sound, and then I'll always have room mics with the piano and then see what, sometimes I need a body mic as well. But sometimes I'll use a U47 as a body mic. And then you can compress that a bit more, use that in mono and kind of fill in. Sometimes you might mic underneath the piano. We do that a lot on Yamaha, like Yamaha C7s. We'll put an SM57 underneath and then slam it through a distressor and then just, kind of add it in as needed. That's a fun sound. But I've also done some stuff where like with just room mics, take the lid off the piano, just above, natural sound, that for some of the classical stuff and things like that. So, and then uprights, I mean, you can just mic those 30 different ways to get certain sounds from them. But I love like compressing an upright. Like that's just such a fun sound. Just slamming upright, to get that, depending on how well tuned it is or not. Yeah, you get the honky tonk but also some ribbon mics on a upright on a Yamaha or something like that. Can be like a beautiful sound. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
How do you decide? Just try stuff out?
The track, depending on the track, it's all about intention.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no one size fits all with anything. So if it's a big pop production with a lot of stuff and you need that piano to cut through, okay, let's find a Yamaha and let's get some bright microphones and compress it so it can, it can poke out. But if it's like a piano ballad, all right, can we find a Steinway and get some more microphones on it and let it bloom? So production choices are hand in hand with engineering choices.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
This was really fun. Thank you guys. Thank you.